Okay, good afternoon. Welcome to the weekly take on the market. Today is Friday, March 15th. Oh, I just noticed that one thing I don't have is the date for this new slide. Here's the disclaimer. Nothing I can say will be construed as investment advice. I'm not licensed. Can't tell you what to buy, what to sell, what to hold, how many shares to have, et cetera, et cetera. Nobody at IBD that I'm aware of has a license as such. I am your host. My name is Scott St. Clair. I'm the manager of the Premium Product Group here in Investors Business Daily. So the drill, it's all the same. This is, and I've said this before, and I think it will be true this time. This will be a short one. I didn't really, I kind of struggled with this one. I didn't really know what to say. The market's not really doing a whole lot, and so there just didn't seem like a lot to talk about. But we'll try to get some stuff in here. Overall market thoughts, stocks to watch. I'm going to skip the industry groups. They looked pretty much exactly the same, and then the quote of the week. The one thing is sentiment is a bit stretched here, and rightfully so. It's been quite a rally. Bitcoin going crazy. Nvidia, everybody's favorite, is done really, really well. So I've said it 100 times. It's price drags sentiment both higher and or lower. The more the market goes up, the more bullish people get. It's a natural inclination, and vice versa. So the bulls are at 60%, as high as it's been in a long, long time. The bears 14.5%. But I'd really like to meet those people. You have a lot of heart if you're publicly bearish here. Although that doesn't mean you're wrong. It's just very difficult to do that. So if this was the opposite way, I would be wildly, wildly bullish. This doesn't make me wildly bearish or even super bearish or even bearish. It does make me, at least for me, unfortunately, because I've been around the block and lived through some really bad bear markets, makes me think, and it does make me slightly cautious. I tend to be a little less invested in these time periods than most people. Sometimes it helps me, sometimes it hurts me. It is what it is, and that's fine. I'll live with it. AAII sentiment actually decreased a little bit, but the bearishness, went up, 0.1%. So the bearishness didn't increase. It looks like you have a few more people on the fence, like they're a little confused. So on how to handle this market. All right, so let's open up the indexes. Make sure I share. Oh, mess that up. I've done that too many times. All right, you should see a chart of the NASDAQ. The market's not closed. It's about 12:15 my time, so I have another 45 minutes here. But I have something later this afternoon, and so it was either now or never. You've got the market. Gosh, it's just really just owning this 21-day moving average. It's actually getting, we're not close. Another 45 minutes here, but it looks like it may be like the first close below it in a while. You had one close below here before the Nvidia news. You had one close here. Actually had three closes there, and you have none in the beginning of the rally. So I just think the market's tired, and it's gone a long way, and it just takes a lot of energy to move stocks at this point. In the Nvidias and SMCIs of the world, which led the rally. Microsoft looks fine, Meta, etc. They're not going to grow to the moon, at least not right away. There's stops and starts, there's fits along the way. So I just think that's probably what the market needs. This is actually good, really good action. You're going to allow some of these stocks, hopefully, to build a base or come back to the moving averages in the least, and give you a chance to participate in them if you want. There just aren't a lot of bases. The only bases that I've seen recently are all different types groups, like Southern Copper or Tech, or some of the oil tankers. and maybe the market is changing. That's a possibility, or people are looking around for places to go because it's just hard to keep incrementally increasing your position in Nvidia or Microsoft at this point. It's sometimes I think like if you're an institution and you don't own Nvidia by now or Microsoft by now, it's what are you waiting for, right? So that's probably what's going on here. So this is good action. Let's see if it can actually close below it. S&P still above it. So the NASDAQ, let's look at that relative strength line. It's tiniest to tiniest, like a couple of lower highs. Very, very tiny. I'm just splitting their hairs there, just trying to look for a reason, really. But maybe. And let's go back to the S&P. It's the same thing. I really want to see this. The market at some point will test this line, and that'll be key. I'm curious how it tests that line. It'll be the first test since the start of the bull market, if that's what you want to call it, or the rally, or whatever you want to call it. But it'll be the first test. Based on experience, the first test is usually a good spot. So I'm looking forward to that first test. That doesn't mean it has to stop exactly on the line, but that's usually a good spot to put on exposure if you don't have any, or add exposure if you do, or all of the above. All right, so let's jump into, I don't know if I had anything else I want to talk about on the indexes. In a nutshell, stretched, a little tired. The best names look like they need to go sideways to down for a little bit, but that doesn't mean that they will. What are the best names? CrowdStrike, NVIDIA, Microsoft, Meta. I'm not including like MSTR and Coin. These are great names, but I don't know if I would lump them in the kind of the institutional category. The SMH is a general rule, the semiconductors, AMD, and et cetera. So we'll look at SMH because that's really led the rally. So let's start with, here's NVIDIA. And you have this really bad outside day down relative. The stock's been on a tear, deserves to pull back a little bit. And my instinct is that'll be the high for a while, and hopefully you can get some type of base, but it's still blue for the week. It's up 1.5% for the week. I would have guessed that, NVIDIA would finally have a red week, and the day's not over, but I don't know if it's going to get back 12 points in 45 minutes. Seems unlikely. But this is the name, and so this looks really healthy. Is it extended? Is it stretched? Is it all those adjectives we use? For sure. But boy, it sure is holding up really well. AMD. So yeah, this is kind of what I thought NVIDIA would look like. So you've got your first red candle, still above the moving averages, got that same kind of outside day down. So it's not as strong as NVIDIA. Like NVIDIA relative is like up here, but not doing anything wrong. CrowdStrike, very similar, holding on. You're getting near the moving average. So you had 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know if it's going to hold that moving average if there's another one. That might be, it might set up a shakeout and or a base for that one. Meta. So if you're really aggressive, you could have bought like that. But I think if you're going to do something like that, my experience is you need to sell into strength, whether it's there or partially there, or there or partially there. Because if you bought that kind of quasi pivot, it's not a real good pivot, and so you're probably staring at unchanged to slightly up, and then if it starts to do this and test that line, you'll get shaken out, but acting really well. Meta. Microsoft had kind of a quasi pivot too, but it got pushed back, which doesn't surprise me. So that's kind of what the market is like. These aren't good quality breakouts. This is a big base. This is not a big base, but it's at least a quality as far as the length of period. And this is just too short, right? So it's getting anxious, breaks out. I think there was some kind of news related, but you're getting, a bout of pressure from these buyers probably. I think it needs time. If you own Microsoft, it's a great one. You just leave it be. But I don't know where the correct pivot buy point would be. As we sit here today, I just don't see one. What else is on my radar that I'm really curious about that's big? Oh, I mentioned SMH. So no surprise, looks very similar to a combination of AMD and NVIDIA. Let me turn my camera off just to make sure you guys can see that. And that's because it's made up of AMD and NVIDIA and all those other companies. So time, and we also are getting into that period where, seasonally, and then the presidential cycle where you get some kind of consolidation in this time period. It's all the moons are sort of lining up. So maybe it plays out exactly how we think, and everybody gets fooled because they just don't think it will do that because everybody knows about that, right? It's in poker, this is a giant poker game, and in poker, when you first learn to play, you play your cards, right? You look down, I've got ace-7. Is that a good hand? I've got 2 queens. Oh, that's a really good hand. I've got a 5 and a 9. That's not a good hand. You just play your cards. As you start to get better, you play your cards, but you also play your opponent's cards, right? So I have ace king, I've raised and my opponent calls, or he re-raises me. It's like, now I'm trying to determine what his cards are. What's the story he's trying to tell me? And then as you get even really good, the pros, they take it to that 3rd and 4th level. Like, okay, it's my cards, it's what I think his cards are, but it's also what I think he thinks my cards are. And you can see how it can get layered and layered and layered. And that's kind of what this is. It's a big poker game. Everybody sees this, or everybody knows about the presidential cycle. So therefore, is it not valid, or is it everybody knows, therefore they don't believe it's valid, so therefore it is valid? And you could go down quite a psychological rabbit hole, thinking all this, which is what makes the stock market so fun, I guess, right? So I just think time. We just need time. I'd love to fast forward to about, May 30th or something like that. Just maybe there'll be a bunch of gobbledygook in here that'll make it tough. The Bitcoin thing, coin so strong. MSTR so strong. You've got the ants here. Is this climactic? I mean, for sure it's climactic. The only thing is, it's just coming out of a base. It's only 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, here it says 5 weeks, but maybe it's coming out of that base, which would make it 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, about 17 weeks, which would sort of qualify. Very difficult on how to interpret that. I mean, if I owned that, I would have been selling, mini moons and dollars ago. So it looks pretty climactic to me. As far as if there's a switch, I guess it's possible, but Southern Copper is a really good breakout. FCX, not as good a breakout as Southern Copper, but still in that same vein. But you can see 63 RS, whereas Southern Copper has 88 RS. So this is the one that I do own, that I would rather own of those. And then you get some of the Sting is tried to come out of this flat base yesterday. Scorpio Tankers, TRMD, building this little cup. flat base type pattern. I do own both those that I just mentioned, Sting and Scorpio. They're kind of all this, they're kind of all the same. There's Frontline, there's LPG, which might be a little different because of petroleum product versus liquid natural gas, TNK, TNP. I don't know which is the best one, but for whatever reason, these are the two that I picked: TRMD and Sting. And then Tech had a really good day, and they're kind of, the thing I like about Tech, and it is they're in a lot of markets. So coal, copper, zinc, gold, and so it could be a good proxy for, if there's any kind of switch, like some type of commodities sea change, so to speak. The relative strength ain't all that great, but I think Duquesne Capital, which is Stanley Druckenmiller, yours and my favorite hedge fund manager, he has a pretty good position in this one. I think it's like his 9th largest position. And what's his first is Microsoft. His second is Coupang, and his third, I think, is NVIDIA. So I would call him, pretty good at this game. So these are, if you're not in this area, it doesn't mean you have to rush out and get to them, but maybe there are areas that you might want to watch to see if anything is changing in that area. All right. So like I said, I just think the market needs time. There's really not a whole lot to go over. So let's jump to the quote of the week. And somebody emailed me and was asking how I found XYZ. I can't remember which stock it was. And I couldn't remember how I found it. There are no magic screens. There's no magic list. You just have to look. You have to turn over a lot of rocks, is what Peter Lynch would say. He says, I always thought if you looked at 10 companies, you'd find one that's interesting. You'd find one gem. If you look at 20, you find 2. If you look at 100, you'll find 10. The person that turns over the most rocks wins the game. So you just got to put in the work. Does that mean every day you got to, grind through your MarketSurge lists over and over and over? No, I don't even do that. And I'm sitting in front of it all day, every day, Monday through Sunday. But on Sunday afternoon, that's the best time for me. I do a very thorough weekend routine, set up my watch list, set up my alerts, enter orders if needed. I'll even enter orders on the weekends, just to make sure I don't miss something, because I can get busy on a Monday possibly. And you just have to kind of go through Growth 250, RS Line Blue Dot, custom screens, new ants list, Mark Minervini trend template. I look at it all, and there'll be some crossover. So you might look at a couple thousand stocks, but they won't all be unique. 2, 3, 4, 500 unique names, maybe. And try to dwindle it down to a manageable level, set some alerts on the ones that are interesting to you, rinse and repeat. That's really, truly the key to this game. All right, our contact information, 800-831-2525, MarketSurge@investors.com. Have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll be back next week. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.